Okay, I have three very different names tonight, and saying the names are not my favorite, not my strength. But I will try. I'm sorry, my guests, if I say the names wrong, but I will try. So we have two guests. The first guest is called Carlo Fischione, and he has a very cool title. He's the Chief Science Officer at a company called and a co-founder at a company called MIND Music Labs. MIND Music Labs is one of the hottest startups currently in Stockholm. They have created the world's first smart guitar, IoT guitar. I have seen it in person, it's really cool. And of course, Carlo is also has done a lot of publications in IoT, and if anyone in this room knows IoT, he's the man who knows it all. So talk to him and so on. And the second guest is Johan Frössén, who also is one of the co-founders at People. People is a very loved design company by the startup community, because they always have startup friendly prices for the hardware community, and also they are known to be working with IKEA and a lot of other brands, and they have a really cool team and a great design agency for hardware. And then we have our guest moderator for today is Donnie Lygonis. Donnie is known for different things. He works at KTH Innovation. He's one of the key people who has created a link and a bridge in the global tech ecosystem between Stockholm and also the Silicon Valley. He was the first senior advisor at something called Nordic Innovation House. Okay, I usually do more excitement, but it's three guests, so bear with me. Okay, so please give a very warm welcome to our fantastic guest today.
That was really cool. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. So, hi everyone. It's great to be here. Great to be back home. I just came back home. I actually came back in September, but I've been traveling a bit. So I'm finally back in Stockholm, and it feels great to be back. I'm back at KTH Innovation, coaching my students and researchers, and having a great time doing it. So it's really cool to be back, and thank you so much for inviting me to host tonight's IoT show. And I'm really pleased to have these extremely distinguished guests here tonight, because very different perspectives, but equally competent and with so much to say. And I know they gave us 3 hours now, right, to talk. They try to get it down to 2, but we'll see. They'll pull us off stage. But I'll kick it off right away by asking my guests. We got the intro there, so we won't have to talk about who we are and what we do. But just, this IoT thing that we're talking about, it's okay, you can hear, right? Yeah. This IoT thing, from your perspective, being the designer and the professor, what is IoT?
You want to start? Okay, it's a hard question, but since I have to be short, you say IoT is everything connected and some intelligence together. And this is something that is going on now for 15 years, so you might not know, but in the academic world, we have been studying technologies behind IoT at least since 1996.
96? Mm-hmm. That's like, even there was this thing called internet, like.
At that time it was called the smart dust.
Yeah? Okay.
You have very small or tiny computers that you just take them and you throw everywhere, and they start to sense and communicate and sense data and transmit data, and you can do many cool things.
And how do you, as a professor at KTH and with the research, how do you see IoT today?
So to answer this question, okay, we start. So IoT is actually, we can be formal now, since I'm a professor, and we can give a definition. So IoT is a combination of at least three essential components. One is the fact that we can get information from many sources. So many sensors that we can put everywhere, but also our mobile phones, our smartphones, and the cameras, they are all source of information. Then we have a second, so this is the first aspect. Then the second aspect is the ability to transmit and send this information somewhere else. So this information doesn't stay in a specific place, but is carried. And so this is called the networking part. And then finally, once we gather this information somewhere, we are able, in theory, to take some decision, some optimal decision. So we have a sort of data analysis, big data, and more in general, artificial intelligence that can interpret this information. This is, so Internet of Things is sensing, transmission of information, and artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much. And going to the design part, what would IoT be from your perspective?
What it is. Well, I think it's obviously all of that, but I also think, from my perspective, I believe maybe currently at least, I think one of the most important things to realize is that IoT is one of many tools to create value of some kind. I think. IoT is a wonderful thing that will surely create a lot of value, but I also think that IoT is how would you put it? I'm going to sound quite negative now. I don't mean to be, but I think it should be acknowledged as a tool, not a result. And I think today, like, one of the reasons why many companies or startups or whatever one might want to call it might not succeed with an IoT company is because they don't see it that way. They see it as the focus, and I think the value should be in focus. So I think IoT is an exciting potential tool. I think that was harsh. I didn't.
Well, okay, well, I can be even harsher. I can say there is no IoT.
Oh, please explain.
I mean. Sure. I mean, we understand our reality by relating to things that are already known. That's how we. I mean, this song sounds like this group, or that's how we understand reality, right? By referring to something we know. So we're trying to put this thing of IoT into like sort of an understandable. Okay, this I can understand. But in a sense, as you were speaking about, mid-96. I mean, IoT is everything connected, and we started back in, well, when DARPA started with computers back in the 50s and 60s, and it's just been, it's going on until we see everything connected. And I had an analogy. I had an enormous fortune. I did some interviews when I was in Silicon Valley. As I said, I spent a year there. I was very fortunate to be given a scholarship to go there for 1 year, and I did a podcast while I was there. And I met lots of incredible people, and I felt everybody should meet them too. So I interviewed them. And I ended off by interviewing Danny Lange, a Danish-German guy who is head of automation of Uber. And we were talking about AI, right? Okay, are we finished now?
No.
And I said sort of, when will AI come alive, When will Skynet take over? When will it happen, And he said it's not about, there's not a date when, pre-AI and post-AI. It's like internet. It's not like we had suddenly one day they turned on the net. It was just a matter of suddenly we had enough computers connected to each other, and we were sending HTML things, and then we started calling it the internet. And the same thing is going with AI. I mean, today we have AI everywhere, actually. It's just that it's not all connected yet. And then that goes into this IoT thing, that all of our gadgets are more or less able, less probably today, but more and more things are being connected. So we do have like an Internet of Things-ish kind of thing going on. It just hasn't sort of reached the intelligence when it comes to the everything connected and the layer thing. But I mean, okay, so I know there are a number of, I don't want to get too technical, but there are a number of sort of, just to get into the IoT thing, there are a number of sort of stages that we see happening, because when I went to CES in January, the big trade fair, there was like sort of, I wrote a blog post where I wrote it that it was not the Internet of Things, but it was the Internet of Silos, because every every sort of brand had their own devices connected, right? And there was nothing this way. Everything was like this way. And not until we see this will we actually see, the actual that happening.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really interesting to see. Today it still is kind of a walled garden thing, and we're sort of moving into where the things are being connected up into the cloud. But it still is sort of a kind of the one brand to rule them all, right? Sort of. And then in the future, we also see the possibility of the things speaking to each other, like on a peer-to-peer thing, sort of. Where do you see any of that that sort of transition, that shift going on?
Yeah. Well, I kind of think I totally agree with you. I think people in general, even if we think we might think ahead of other people, or like I have an idea that someone else haven't had yet, or whatever. I think usually when you look back at those things, like 10 years from now, you're probably going to see that that people are within a silo, as you said, is slightly pushing the boundaries a little bit over and over until there's this one thing, until there's this like one company that just connects things in a way that we perhaps not might see today, when it's going to start to feel normal with the whole connected thing, and then everyone is going to look back and go, oh, I can't believe we thought that was IoT, when we now see what we have, So I think, it's like, I think it's just difficult to realize what you have sometimes. So I think sometimes we can't see what we have in front of us, even if it's already there. I think I don't remember which book it was. It was some book describing when Darwin made his evolutionary theory. If you look through his journal, he had the evolutionary theory written down months ahead of when he actually realized it. So you could look at his notes and go like, I think there's something here, and it's just going around in circles and circles. And then all of a sudden he was looking up, and then he got it. But when you look back on the notes, he actually had the idea earlier on, but he just couldn't see it. So I think it's a little bit the same.
Yeah, that's a very central point, because I believe that IoT is here and it's invisible, but it's here because we are using so many new products that is the result of some information connection and transmission, and they enter in our life slowly, and we adapt, and then another one comes, and then we get used, and we don't realize that so many new products and things we are using today. Just to mention the simplest thing is the buses here in Stockholm that we know very well when they are arriving, right? With the labels that tell us the delay. Well, that's the IoT. The buses are connected, and there is a database, and there's a prediction when they will be arriving. And so this has been there for quite some times. And there are many other examples that one can do. But it's exactly as you said. Many of these IoT technology are almost invisible. They are there, and we don't realize it.
Oh, okay, but let's go on.
The other thing I wanted to mention that you really you touched that there are now so many players in the world. It's many companies. It's 1,000 companies are doing some IoT, and everyone is trying to do its own solution with their own sensors and protocols for communication and analysis. And in fact, we still have to see in the future, maybe in 3 or 4 years from now, what it's called the 5G, right? The fifth generation of wireless communications, where hopefully there will be a common way to connect all these devices, all these information sources, which we don't have now yet.
So, and I was just going to ask you about, do you see any defining moments? And 5G could we say that is a defining moment, that something big will happen?
I can say certainly. I mean, that it's at least it's the precondition for which that will happen. Yes.
Okay.
I think is this not still not working out?
Yeah, that's what people say from the back. So.
All right. So I think with defining moments, I would say power consumption, battery life, battery size.
Yeah.
I think right now things just the wireless technologies that we use either are too weak, right, distance-wise, or just drain power too fast. There are some potential out there, but they're not mainstream yet. And I think that will probably be a defining moment when we can do something really cheap, has a big reach, great penetration, I think it's called, when it goes to materials, but then also that you can make it very small. I think it's which is a very like normal technological development. Smaller, longer.
Okay. Okay. Here's another one. Here's another one. To again with a couple of analogies. All sort of tech shifts they start off by being tech driven. Some tech, usually guys in a room, are developing something. And it's in the hands of the technicians, right? And then suddenly it becomes more accessible to the market, like designers and advertising agencies, and then they start using it, and the tools become easier, and it democratizes the technology, like internet when everybody could make home videos. I mean, the best example is, of course, apps. I mean, I was in the mobile industry when they were called programs, and we made Java programs for phones, and then, iTunes and the whole democratization of apps, and everybody could make an app. What do we see the same thing happening here? I mean, is it becoming easier to throw yourself into this IoT ocean industry thing?
Oh, absolutely. I think also now when prototyping is so much easier as well, you can just try things fast and quite cheap.
But how do you do that? How easy is it to just try something? If anybody here had an idea that who's got the connected cat thing? Where are you? There you go. There. They got connected cats. If somebody had something, it's a cat sensor that knows how your cat is. It can tell you that your cat's going to be sick soon. I mean, poorly, not sick. It could be good if it tells you it's going to be sick as well. Anyway, so if anybody had a similar idea, how do they do it? How do they test it? How do you jump in?
Well, you take a couple of electro engineers and a programmer.
Oh yeah, that small thing there.
I'm teaching a course that is called Internet of Things or Sensor Networks, and you come to the course, so you can do this kind of.
Okay, so you sign up for your course. How long is that?
It's 1 month and a half.
Yeah. Okay.
In KTH, Royal Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
Every September. Now it's just finished.
So go to the course first, and then you go to.
No, or you just don't. Yeah, or you just find the people that can do it. You can usually prototype it with maybe 2-3 people.
But many people phone you though.
Yeah.
How many people phone you?
In general, like, what do you mean? Like
regarding, hey, we have this idea about a thing that we.
About 10 people a week.
10 people a week.
Yeah.
Because you've done
10 companies a week. Yeah.
Yeah, because you've done quite a few, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like what?
Well, so unfortunately, many of the things I work on is classified. I can't talk about it. But let's say that it's mostly wearables.
Yeah.
But it's also cars, and it's what else? Other home electronic stuff.
Okay. But let's try and for me then. Let's try and dumb it down for me.
Sure.
So how do I start? I have this great idea that if I could connect these things, add some intelligence, it would be really cool.
Yeah.
What do I do?
So if you come to us, the way we do it, I'm not saying it's the only way to do it. That first off is that we're gonna health check the value of the idea. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're not going to do tech. We're not going to do anything like that. First off, we're going to look very harshly on sort of like which problems are you solving? Is anyone else doing it? How much people will be interested in this? Or is it a business-to-business thing? Is it a business-consumer thing? People, value for companies. That will be the first gateway to it. If there's not enough of that, there is just no reason to build it. Sometimes, on the other hand, you might want to have to build it to see if it's, if it will reach the kind of value that you believe it will. And and then we take a bunch of cards and a bunch of sensors and maybe 2 people, and we build it pretty fast, and we try it out.
Yeah, because what I understand is you can basically take an off-the-shelf, very small piece of hardware that could sense almost anything. The most normal thing is like temperature and accelerometer and GPS. That would be like a normal kind of thing. And then you add some software to what it's supposed to sense, and then what happens when it senses it, right?
Yes, in fact, the difficult part in the Internet of Things is not much sensing information, because now we have so many sensors that we can buy of many, many different kinds. The real difficult part is to use this information to do something intelligent, or to do some analysis of the data, or to take some control action based on this information that we are measuring. And all this has to be very reliable, has to be secure. Sometimes we need a lot of privacy if we're taking measurements about our body or about people. And that's probably the tricky part, is what you generally we could call the artificial intelligence part.
But that's what adds value. I mean, I can take a number of examples of gadgets that I own or have, or that measure stuff, like this, like my watch, and my watch and my phone. Right? Today it says you've taken 8,000 steps, and I know, I just took them. I can feel it. You don't have to tell me I did it. I feel it. You know, and then it doesn't say anything else. You know, what's the value is not there as sort of for me.
So what was the question?
No. I was just you looked like you were going to answer something.
No,
so I was. No, I was just going to say that many things are just reporting today, and they're not smart enough.
Yeah, that's now what is missing. One of the things that is missing. We have said that we don't have yet a common way to connect all the devices. Okay, and for this probably we will have to wait 5G. 5G will be available in 2, 3, 4 years from now, and there is lots of standardization going on for the communication of the protocols and the wireless transmission. Okay, that's something still has to come. In addition, the other thing that has to come is this ability to interpret data and to do something with this data, and something that also should have characteristics such as something that is automatic, a sort of intelligent robot or software robot that is there and helps us in doing something with this measurement that are being taken. And then there is a problem of, for example, your smart watch there should be talking to you at some time in the day, maybe with the right voice, so you are not insulted, or not maybe doing email. And so there is now all these algorithms that we interpret data, that will tell us what to do, and all this has to be done in an automatic manner.
And that's another thing. I mean, if you're going to sort of jump into the ocean of this fun stuff, IoT-ish kind of thing, I mean, you almost don't have to do at all much yourself, because the hardware is off the shelf, the sensors are there. If you speak to there are some big companies like IBM have their Watson, Microsoft have their cloud, Amazon has their Elastic stuff, and they have a lot of AI capability in there. So basically, you can connect your sensors, feed it up to their thing, say what you want analyzed, and they'll send you back. I saw an example of this. If you excuse me, just continuing. I'm supposed to be interviewing these guys. No. I saw an example where one of these companies I just mentioned, because they'd done a test where they said, what if we could make a blind man see? Just so they gave a guy a couple of glasses, a blind guy, and they had a camera, and the only thing that it does is it takes pictures and it sends the pictures to the cloud. In the cloud, it analyzes the pictures, turns it into text, what it sees in the picture, and then sends down a text to voice down to an earphone, which says, I see a man sitting on the left-hand side with a dog. He looks angry, and everything goes on up there. And all they did was they hung the camera on the glasses, sent the data up to the cloud, and it came down as a voice.
Cool.
It is almost that easy. You need to build the interface, and you need to think up what do we want to happen? Because that you focus on the value, right?
Well, first of all, at least, of course, it all needs to be built. And yes, I think it's an important part. I think so. Yeah, we do. Yeah. Yeah, no, but honestly, I think it's a huge problem.
There are too many secrets in this company.
No, sorry. I think it's a huge. It's just a little mind shift. I think if every startup would just switch just a little bit, like mindset, not everyone, but loads, to go like instead of asking like, what can I do with IoT? What can I do with this technology? Blah blah blah. Just put that aside for a second and just go, how can I make a blind man see? I mean, like what am I solving here? Like, what am I doing? And then just figure that out, put a lot of time on it, and then go, okay, so what are the building blocks to make this happen? It might not even be an IoT solution, seriously. It probably is, but it might not be. So I think we get seduced sometimes by what's hyped. Like I think it was the 80s, everyone wanted to do things with lasers. I still want to do things with lasers. Everyone should want to do things with lasers. It's really cool. But it doesn't mean that lasers is going to be the answer to the value that you're seeking to provide, right? So yeah. So I think go for it.
Yeah, but IoT is such a general thing.
Yeah.
That is the answer, in my opinion. IoT is everything.
Yeah.
Whatever we can do, we need information transfer, information interpretation, and some action out of it. And so the future will be for sure IoT. This is, but as you say, there are many building blocks, and still today we have technological challenges. So to do things like the ones that you mentioned, surprisingly, it's difficult because it's many different blocks that don't talk to each other. It's difficult to understand. It's difficult for a single person even to have an understanding of the way these blocks works, or simply some of the desirable blocks are not there. Typically, in the application that you mentioned, one big difficulty now is that to send data to the cloud and then wait back for an interpretation takes lots of time. And communications are slow. It's of the order of a few seconds. So in a real, for a person who is walking, it's too much. You need to get a feedback, the order maybe once every half a second, maybe, or 10 times per second. This is what nowadays is being called tactile internet, and internet is super fast.
Wait, you said a buzzword there.
Right,
Tactile internet. Water cooler talk, guys and girls. Water cooler talk. Tactile internet. What is tactile internet?
Oh, you never heard it before, right?
No.
It's something fantastic. Maybe it's very new.
Like lasers.
all the Internet of Things was born from academic research some 20 years ago in the University of California, Berkeley. You've been there. I've been working also there. And nowadays, I think a great innovation that comes from academia, from a university, and in this case it's a German university. A professor, his name is Gerhard Fettweis, who actually has noted that in whatever networking we have today, in wireless communications or internet, we can really send a huge amount of data, megabits per second, gigabits per second. But this data actually they could come very slowly. Of the order of maybe half a second, 1 second, which is very much for this kind of applications, or even for other things such as the automatic control of the automatic driving of cars. There, the cars they have to communicate with each other, or with the base stations on the wireless communication, with messages that arrive within 1 millisecond or even less. And today we don't have this technology. We don't have even methods to design this technology. Something that still we are investigating. So that's an area which will be adding a lot to Internet of Things. This is truly real-time networking. This is called tactile internet, because if we touch, if we have a robot that is some 100 kilometers, maybe not too much, some tens of kilometers from us, and as the robot touches something and we are on the other side, we would like to have the same feeling of touch and looking at the image that is transmitted, then information has to arrive within a few milliseconds to have this real effect. And today this is impossible to do. We are investigating how to do it. And a typical application of this is in the future remote surgeries. Right? The surgeon who is maybe in another city, in Uppsala, because maybe in Uppsala
you can't have a 2-second delay when you're sewing somebody's bone off, right?
That's too much.
Okay, but that's interesting because that's something that we
Just to go with this is now another example. One of the blocks is the technological blocks that is still missing in the Internet of Things, and we don't know yet how to do it. We will do it in the future. We don't know yet how to do it.
So as long as we're doing slow services, it's okay. Good. Well, yes.
I just realized that we did start by. There were some people here who asked, "What is Internet of Things?"
Yes.
We did. You did ask that question.
Yes, I did ask that question.
I'm curious.
We're slow, but we get there. Yep.
Is everyone? Did everyone understand what it is?
Or did anyone understand what it is?
Totally.
How about a layman explanation? Just, take it down. Yeah. No, but please.
But you did a wonderful explanation. But I'm just for us to continue.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows what it is. So would you mind just very short? You want to do it?
Okay.
No,
Very short.
you go ahead.
All right. So Internet of Things are things connected to each other wirelessly or to the internet in general.
And we're talking everything now. I mean,
It
because
could be anything.
there's actually, because there's internet. I mean, there are a number of expressions out there now. There's one thing called Internet of Things, which, like Ericsson, have been talking about, 50 billion devices connected by 2020, like everything connected, right? And then there's the IoT, which is the industrial Internet of Things, where all of the factories are connected, both internally and also, but and everything in a factory can speak to each other. It makes the whole factory much more process effective. So that's another thing, right? And I remember I heard Siemens bragging about their new factory down in Germany, where they haven't even installed lights. Because they don't need lights, because there's never a human in the factory. Everything is automated, everything talks to each other, right?
Wow.
And then you have the IoE, which is Internet of Everything, which is the latest buzzword, where everything from my cat and my clothes and my bag. Who's got the bag? Where are you? There you go.
There's the guy.
Connected bags here, connected cats there. How many else is in IoT here? You see, lots of people you can speak to. How many are working with hardware, gadgets? Cool. How many are working only with software? Cool. Okay. Good. This is going to be a good mingle afterwards.
Absolutely. Sorry for that little interruption. I just want to make sure that we make sure that everyone feels involved.
No. I think it's super cool because it is so easy to sort of go, totally nerd out on something techie, but you forget about the actual value that you're supposed to be actually creating for somebody. The intelligent part is really important. I mean, and the self-driving car thing is really important. I mean, we actually need a whole new speed of transmit to be able to have this self-driving car thing that we're talking about. Personally, I think that our grandkids will be saying, "What do you mean you drove yourself? Are you mad? People must have died by the millions on the road every day. Who would want to drive anyway with all other things I can be doing when I'm riding around in this vehicle?" Right? So, I mean, it's...
I think you're right. I think it's going to be illegal to drive at some point.
Yeah, but the thing is, we have a whole new business model because people will be actually going to places where they can drive themselves, like a retro thing,
Yeah.
Oh, I am controlling a big vehicle that weighs lots of tons.
Yeah, and there will be like an age limit just for safety reasons, not skill reasons.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a whole brave new future out there, but it's the value of things again. I mean, if we just play around with an example, let's just take something. Name a gadget. Name a gadget. Let's try this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Drone.
A what?
A drone. Yeah.
A drone. A drone. Okay. Well, let's take a drone. What is it measuring? What kind of drone? Who has it? You have a drone.
I don't.
No, but. Yes, you do. Yes, you have a drone. Okay, you have a drone. What does a drone do?
Yeah. Well, if you had a drone, what would it do?
Okay, I have a good idea.
Go for it.
Yeah.
It puts out fires.
Put out fires?
You find fires in the woods.
Okay. Because you start fires, or why would you have a drone that does that?
No, to
Yeah, but you have a drone. We're playing around with an example. You have a drone.
Surveillance drone.
Sorry, so you have a surveillance drone. What does that do?
Look for bad guys.
Look for bad guys. Okay, so okay. So here's the idea. She has a drone that follows her around. Okay,
Yes.
like a pet.
Yeah.
Everywhere she goes, she has a drone. It might be really, really small, so we can follow her indoors as well. I don't know. Okay, so that's the tech part. Sure. She has a drone that can follow her around. It's really small, and she can go everywhere with this drone.
Like a fly.
Let's add some. I mean, let's add some more intelligence to this. Then, what would the drone be able to do? Well, what could this thing do? What will it? What is it? What does this mean?
Well, it could do. I think I could. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I guess, is pictures. But why then? So.
But what if? Yeah. But okay.
Emergency signals. Yeah. Emergencies.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah.
You can order. Yeah. It's say you wish to have something delivered at home. You can use a drone because it will travel much faster and polluting less. We can use a drone, say, in a public place if someone, for some reason, falls ill and you need some medical equipment. It can arrive very, very quickly from the hospital.
Yeah, but she has a drone. It's her drone.
For city planning, to see how people are moving around the city.
Okay, cool.
Or
Okay.
you could just do like a whole new service, which is like will make Instagram look like the Stone Age. You just broadcast yourself 24/7, and you get followers and you do things, and you just spend your whole life watching someone 24/7.
Yeah,
that you just
sure.
admire.
Okay, and we're talking about Internet of Things here. So let's say everybody has a drone.
Well, it has to.
And all of the drones.
Pictures.
Let's say everybody has a drone, and all of the drones are connected. What happens then?
Sell this data to retailers.
Okay. But what else happens? We all have drones, and they're all connected. They can all speak to each other.
Yeah.
Insurance.
Sorry?
Insurance. That will. Yeah.
But they can do, they can work together as a team, and in any activity where we need some team to do something, and it could be surveillance of a building, as you say, of a forest, and this can be done together. But this drone, I have a colleague who is researching in this area, is very famous, right on the team of agents, autonomous agents or drones.
I mean, just look at the agricultural tech, which is exploding now in many parts of the world. Some super cool things are happening there, right? Because then you take every single plant, right? It's especially in vineyards, and every plant has sensors. So you know plant by plant which plant it's time to harvest or water or whatever, because they measure humidity and they measure mognad, maturity, when to harvest. So you don't go sort of, I need to harvest this field over here. You can go, this patch is damper, so this is growing faster, and they can actually work their plants and the harvesting part plant by plant, because all the plants are connected in a big mesh, and they're connecting with drones as well, so they can have a surveillance also, higher surveillance.
But sorry, you covered.
No, go ahead.
No, I think it's an interesting thing. It's just like if you take that example with a drone following someone, and then you just remove the person and say, what could the drone do that you don't have to? Like, I mean, that's obvious. Like the delivery thing that you mentioned is obviously huge. Have you all seen that? There's I think it's in Canada. There's a hotel with cabins where they can, if you have a cabin which is far away from the reception, you can basically order room service from miles away, and there's a drone that drives a 6-pack of beer around your cabin and flies back. Beautiful. Like
that's the best IoT solution I've heard.
But I mean, it's also like a step.
I bet you it's a guy that came up with that one.
But I think it's interesting because it's obvious. I mean, Amazon and everyone's working on this, and I'm sure there was it just the other week when they did the first successful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Otto. They did the Budweiser truck. Volvo Trucks and Otto did the first delivery of beer across America.
Oh, okay.
With a self-driving truck. And the guy was sitting in the back reading.
Why is it all beer?
It's beer drives the industry. So yeah. No, but seriously, let's get back to IoT. I was just trying to make an example of the connected intelligence of things. When you actually start connecting things, it's like if I have a smart bike where I can I can connect with my bike, right? It can tell me how fast I am pedaling. And it can tell me, my map can tell me where I am. But the thing is, if I can add where all of the other bikes are, the whole Waze factor thing, that's when it gets interesting. I mean, that's when you start adding intelligence to the system, is when you add when all of the gadgets start sort of putting in data and you do an analysis of that. That's when you really get the value. So I mean, I think that when you're looking at IoT stuff, if you have a sort of a gadget approach or a technical approach, I think the important part is pushing it into value for consumer or user or member or whatever or payer, company, but also lifting it one layer up to say, okay, but what does this mean in the bigger sort of next level of intelligence to what it could do? What if my cat or all of the cats in the neighborhood could actually speak to each other through the necklaces? What would that mean? How much more intelligent would it become?
But I guess it's one way to figure out is to do almost like a if you have a platform thinking, right? I mean, it's just like, let's take all cats. They all have necklaces that are connected, and then that's just like totally open source. And you just say, okay, so it's all these cats, and they're all connected, and almost say like build apps, like or build functionalities on top of it and see what happens. 9 things out of 10 will die, just like an app for the App Store, but one thing there will probably succeed. Yeah. So I guess when things become widely used enough, perhaps built on certain technological platforms, etc., the whole thing itself could become the next platform for things to build upon. Again, I don't know what to build for cats on a huge network of cats, but it would be a great hackathon.
Well, it's not going to be beer at that time, at least. Like I said. Okay, but so we have but we've mentioned 5G, and we've mentioned some barriers, technology, 5G. That's one thing, okay. But what about the actual business side? Because usually usually everything is tech driven until it becomes big business, and that's when it sort of breaks through.
Sure.
So what do we see happening here? When will stuff becoming big? When will it become big business in the sort of this IoT thing? What will actually? Can we see some things happening?
Well, go over it.
Yeah, I think the problem is that, as we said from the beginning, IoT is everything, and that there are various verticals where there are companies that are now very successful in connecting devices and making sure that these devices or objects they do something together, and they create enormous value. This company, I believe, is called Kiva, that already some 4 or 5 years ago built robots that take the books in the Amazon warehouse, and when we order books, they are taken automatically by these ground robots. And there is no person in the warehouse, and everything is brought to the collection point. In the past, you needed a person that read our order on Amazon and would go and fetch the book. But now everything is automatic, thanks to these robots that they work as a team, because they don't have to collide with each other, otherwise all the books follow, and they have wireless communication, so they are connected. I think this company was sold for around a couple of $1 billion some 3 or 4 years ago. So this is a great example of innovation in IoT in a specific area, which we don't see much because it's not a consumer area, it's within logistics and such things. So I'm sure that there are many such verticals, as you said, that have been extremely successful.
Let's talk about risks, because I've always been saying it's kind of ironic that just a couple of weeks ago we had this big attack of all gadgets doing the DDoS attack, but I've been saying for a long time who is the first person who will have their bank account emptied through their toaster, right? Which sounds a bit science fictiony, but it isn't. So and this everything can transmit. Everything can be connected, right? So who's responsible for the security here? Where does this come in? Is there anybody we can say it's his fault or her fault or she should have, or where does this come in? What do you say about security?
It's a big question, and it's certainly unsolved in many ways. And I can really mention an example that we are experimenting these days. I'm involved in a research project together with the city of Stockholm and the authority that delivers water, the drinkable water, Stockholm Vatten, together with ABB and Ericsson. And then we are collecting, we are measuring the quality of water, or we will be measuring the quality of water in the water distribution lines. And then the question is now, who owns the data that is being measured? It's those who put the devices, it's those who transmit information, in this case Ericsson is the authority of the world, Stockholm is the city of Stockholm, and if something goes wrong here, who is the responsible, who should be accountable? We don't have an answer to this, and it's, in certain cases can even be a barrier in the future. This is one of the research even issues within forensic, within engineering that still we
It's like, I mean, who's responsible when the self-driving car runs over yeah. But you were going to say as well? Security?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think it comes down to legislation, but obviously, well, a bit, it comes down to legislation and law. And it's always slower than tech, which is, I would assume, the reason why you even asked the question in the first place. But I think it's, I think the somewhat worrying thing is that we don't know, right? I mean, that's the honest question. Sometimes we just don't know. And I mean, we don't. So it's a tricky question. I have no, maybe it's, yeah, depends on the example, obviously. Like your example here is obviously a tricky one. And, well, you need to have good lawyers, I guess. That would be the solution number one.
For the self-driving cars, I think they have really some new legislation in the subject.
Yeah.
I'm not sure precisely.
Maybe we should have like one major big global entity that controls everything. Maybe we should call it Skynet or something.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Question is, when does Skynet come alive? For real? No, but seriously, it's. I think sometimes it's super cool and everything like that. But sometimes it feels like the mad scientist with all of the electricity and all of the buttons that are pressing, and everything is fantastic, and we forget about that whatever we don't know part.
Yeah. Yeah. We should have.
So what do you do to take responsibility for this when you work with IoT?
I'm going to leave. No, but I think right now, at least in our company, we haven't come across any problems that have been tricky to solve yet. But, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I also think that the reason for that is that, like you described earlier, is that even if we're starting to connect things, there's still a lot of silos out there of what happens when things become more connected.
Yep.
And legislation will not be there when that happens, that's for sure.
Yep.
So I think just as important, I mean, it's important to hire good people but, in general, but the legal side is obviously highly.
I mean, I have a wonderful example of IoT / robotics / Internet of Things. Okay, so we have all of these elderly, right? Elderly care,
Yeah.
and we're saying that let the gadgets take care of the old people.
Yeah.
No, that's what we're saying today. That let's let the gadgets and robots take it because we don't have time anymore, right? And we're getting older of us. So more gadgets. Okay. So imagine you have a robot that speaks to your dad for the last 10 years of his life. And being a kid of today, you don't speak to your parents after you're 35, so that that window. So the last 10 years of his life, this father speaks to the robot. The robot basically learns everything about him, every single memory that he tells it, everything he's the whole life story. So in a sense, the robot becomes him, because he knows your dad better than your dad knows himself, basically. So, and then of course. I know it's very sad, but then your dad passes away. But the robot is still there with, your dad. So you could basically take this and put it in the cloud and say, well, I have my dad in the cloud and I can speak to him when I want because the AI can answer the questions as my dad would anyway, because it is my dad because he's been programming for 10 years. So I have my dad in the cloud. And that's the sort of the me and my gadget kind of thing, okay? But then we add 1 billion dads and moms in the cloud. Okay.
Oh, you made clones of that?
No. When all of the old people die, they all sort of the collective memories they go up into the cloud. And science says there's no sort of space in the head for this thing called conscience. It's just a number of millions of neurons connected, and that makes us conscious. So when we have enough connected neurons in the cloud, i.e., mums and dads, would that come alive?
Sorry, say that again.
They got it. And that's an interesting example of stuff that I like to think about when I can't sleep. But anyway, do we have any questions from the audience? I know that are we getting close to the. You're supposed to say 5 minutes left.
Yeah, you can have 10 more minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience? We'll be just babbling about here. So if there's anything you want us to talk about or answer, or there's a question.
Hello, my name is Elena. I'm a researcher at KTH, work with KTH in the lab, by the way. Yes, and my question is, when you start to work with IoT, sooner or later you come to understand that you need a platform. You can have a choice to work like with the big platforms like Lygonis or Azure, like IBM or Microsoft big platform where you connect your gadgets or your equipment, or to develop your own platform. You like a specialist. Can you tell for like people who play with Raspberry Pi and never seen any kind of playing with big platforms like Linux or Azure, is it really possible to create your own platform to continue kind of independent, research, project, business, and so on?
Good. That's a very good question. Is it possible? And is it also worth it? Could be an added advantage to it? Any comments to that?
It's a very good question, and in general the answer is it depends on what you wish to do. Sometimes these platforms, they are not just repository of information, but they're also places where you need an enormous amount of computational power to do some analysis of data, or some, especially in real-time cases such as voice recognition or artificial intelligence, conscious-like things. It's impossible for you to have your own platform because you need processors with an enormous power. But if you're doing something much more simple, such as monitoring the way you train, the way you walk, and or you sleep, then you can do this on a local device. So it really depends. Yes, the answer is yes, but it depends on which application you wish to.
If you work with a big platform, what you can recommend? What is the best way, like what you think is really good to start for IoT projects?
Yeah, it's since IoT is enormous, so really it's impossible to answer this question. You really have to have in mind what do you want to do as an application.
I was just thinking, I'm thinking that I don't really know where I can go from tonight if I'm interested in the Internet of Things. Yeah, that's nice. I have a connected drink. So anyway, let's connect our drink experiences in a little while. But I was just thinking, like, there are all these meetups popping up now in Stockholm, and like AI and VR and all of that. Could we do like a crowd sharing and just like, I know that Makers Park closed down, but there's still Maker Space at KTH. Where else to go? Who's got anything? Or is it all that new? It's really not.
Do you mean for events, or do you mean?
I mean for resources. Like we said, if somebody wants to build something, where do you go? Like, yeah, could you go to KTH, to the basement there where the Makers Space is? The basement at Things, for example.
Yeah.
Where else?
Where is
what happens?
What have you got in Stockholm for resources for people who want to play with IoT stuff, makerspace bases? Sure?
Can I just answer a question, because I really had the same question kind of a couple months ago.
Okay.
There's one really cool course on Coursera if you can't wait September. It's called IBM IoT for developers, and they can explain it easily. You can buy this Raspberry Pi gadget for $20, and you can play with some sensors. And this course is kind of 4 weeks, but you can really start practically work with IoT if you know simple kind of Python knowledges or JavaScript knowledges. You can easily make your own code, connect with your own gadgets, and really start to do real IoT practical stuff. Is it okay? Just answer because it's really
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I really had the same question. Yeah.
Anyone else?
It's also that in...
We had a question over here as well. But, yeah, go on. Yeah.
It's many in KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology, there are a number of departments that are working with IoT from different point of views. And then depending on what you wish to do, then you can find answers to some of your questions.
But we have this guy called Jonas Sudling here as well. Right? The startup grind guy. Is he? Are you still here?
He's taking a break.
He's taking a break. Okay, we'll get back to him. No, but I mean, because that's a really good question. Because there was this hypey kind of thing going on a couple of years ago, when everybody was building things and it was makerspace and everything like that, and that sort of teetered out a bit. But I'm sure there's bound to be places to go and to find each other. So I think we should we'll work with that. There was a question over here.
Yeah, my name's Satu. I'm a student from KTH. I'm just wondering, what do you think about ethics in IoT? Like, how do you decide which data that you can take and not take? What's the limitation of that? And should we consider about making world smarter and maybe not watching people 24/7, for example?
Good idea.
Yeah, thank you.
So you say optics, right? You mean the data that we collect from our sense, you mean manual sensing, and it's in a way what we call basically research. And now we are studying methods that allow us to transform this data when they are still with us before it's transmitted through some communication systems. And so this is what is called privacy-preserving information processing. And all these kind of methods are being developed these days. So it's really an exciting area for research, because we don't have all the ways to protect in a very good manner private and personal data.
So, okay, there's one question there as well. Please don't say you're from KTH and you have a tech question.
Actually, I'm from KTH. So everyone is interested in IoT, but so big companies are connecting all the devices to the internet, but there is no like common standard. And who is actually responsible for coming up with the standard?
Well, that's an easy question to answer. Who's responsible to come up with a common standard, and how the hell do we work? Oh, sorry, did I just say hell?
So
I'm sorry.
we have, so when you say standard, first of all, there are standards about different things, and in how to do the sensing, how to do the storage of data, and standards to the transmission of data. When it comes to the communication part, the networking part, the transmission of data, then we have international standardization bodies that are working right now on defining a standard, and this is called 5G. We don't have yet such a standard, but they will be in 2-3 years. And these bodies are normally formed by various companies. Every company has its own solution, and they are trying to clearly to pull for their own solution. Everybody's pulling, so in the end there will be an agreement. And this takes time.
Do we? I mean, I remember that Qualcomm are pushing really hard to sort of have their standards, and I know, but of course we have the Googles and the Apples, and I mean everybody wants to push their thing, right? And
yes, it's now the situation right now. The picture of the moment is that a group of companies, such as the big telecommunication companies that are standardized 5G, then we have another group of companies within the ZTE Alliance, and there we find, for example, Siemens and probably ABB and others, that they have their own standard, and still this, the two, they don't talk to each other yet.
but we'll get there.
Hopefully in the future.
We'll get there. Yeah. So but we can agree upon that. I mean, IoT is one. There's a question here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Or my view on standardization being part of 5 ISO standards and 10 different others. My view on who is going to standardize the Internet of Things is probably IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force, the ones who are already standardizing IP and all other protocols that we are using on the internet. I don't think it's going to be the verticalized industry players. Maybe it was
you're going to pitch here afterwards, right?
Yes.
So you're going to say that you're going to standardize everything?
No, I'm not.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. Cool. No, but I think we're getting close to some kind of closure here, right? But I think we can agree upon that IoT, in a sense, on one hand, it's a very techie kind of thing, where it's gadgets and sensors and things that measure stuff and sends data up into the cloud. On the other hand, it's a very, very value-driven AI kind of thing as well, where we create value with the algorithms and all of the actual software that we add to all of the data, which is maybe more important to look at if you're in the business perspective interested in this as well. I mean, it's fun to play around with and tinker with things and make them measurement, but try to figure out how does this add value, not only one gadget to me, but also many gadgets to me, and then many gadgets to gadgets, and how does that sort of add value on every layer? I know that you're going to talk about that in a little bit as well.
Yeah, and I want to highlight as well, if there's anyone who has an idea and just want to bring it to the mass market, and just try it, come to us, just see if it rhymes with what we do, and just feel free to test it out. Please go ahead.
So you just increased the amount of telephone calls from 10 to...
No, but I mean, there's some amazing things out there, and we want to help if we're the right partner for it, but there's, we can always have a discussion.
And how about the courses? Anything from? I mean, when is the guitar going to come out on the market?
Yeah.
Have you all seen the guitar?
It's
a super cool thing.
The secret I cannot see, but we are
but tell them and we'll kill them all afterwards. It's okay.
So before you mentioned many Internet of Something on this on that. So we believe we are the first in the world, my company and the co-founder of MIND Music Labs. So we have invented the Internet of Musical Instruments. Everything is connected today, but surprisingly not the musical instruments, especially those of the classic tradition. The musical instruments that are really used by the professional.
He just got my idea.
And that's and one of the exciting things in IoT that is happening. You might come to see at FINS, the incubator that's located in KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm.
Cool. Well, we...
Yes, great. Before you wrap up, I have a question before I send you off from
ask
stage.
the question.
Yeah. Okay, so usually when I interview, I have the last question I ask is, what is your favorite startup, hopefully from Stockholm? Like, what are you most excited about now in Stockholm? Which company? So we can start with whoever I want.
You mean in general in Stockholm?
Yeah, like, which is your favorite startup? You can name 2. I'm not going to be Swedish and not tell you name 3, so I will say 1, 2 maximum.
Are you allowed to say anything about these now, or are they all secret? Well, the secret number 1, the secret number 2.
No, it's not like, sorry, I don't mean to just talk about secret things. I don't know. Would you mind answering first, and I have a little bit of moment to...
No, we're all thinking like mad here, so you please keep on speaking here. So.
It shouldn't be that hard.
No, but there are so many to choose from.
You can say mind.
I'll say one. The guys that won a prize today, in the embedded conference. 2 guys from a tech college up here in the road. They called EVAM Systems. It's one of those things that you go, this is not a good idea, but it's actually a really good idea. They've developed a transmitter in ambulances and police cars that actually breaks into any transmission you have in the car, not only the RDS, but everything that you have transmitting sound, and says, hey dude, there's an ambulance behind, get out of the way. And they won a prize today for actually for embedded systems in a conference today. So that's one, 2 students from KTH.
That's what the name was?
EVAM.
EVAM. Okay.
EVAM.
Yeah.
That's one. Another one is, of course, one of our most biggest rock stars of startups, again from KTH, Malin Kronqvist, with Help to Help, where they've sort of democratized the education of developing countries, which is a beautiful startup, where they're actually sort of not, they're turning the whole thing upside down when it comes to the whole charity thing. She's a total rock star. Oh. She's super cool. That's 2.
Good. Thank you, Donnie.
Okay, I'm going to be general, I think. So I think it's always really interesting to see. I think my favorite startups in general are the ones that are not following trends. Then there is a wristband, and there is a wristband, and then there is a wristband that connects and measures things. And then there is a drone, and a drone, and a drone, and a smartwatch, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes just from the side comes something. It could be anything. And I want to just, I think I want to leave it unspecific in that sense, because I just really, really love companies that think for themselves rather than just following others and see what can we also do. Instead go, what should be done?
No name.
That's purely because of Black Eye.
Since he didn't say anything, I can say 2 more.
Yeah,
I can say Fine Cell. and this is really this is tech stuff, but it's another incredible company that are making nanocellulose accessible to industry production. I mean, as in cellulose, wood, but it's really hard to take the cellulose and build stuff out of it because it's only wood. But they've actually broken it down into nanoparticles. So it's a powder that you can just send as a powder, and then you just add fluid, and then you get a gel that you can build like airplanes out of. And it's super strong and it's super light. And they've managed to finally, after 20 years of research, they've managed to develop an industrial component. It's going to revolutionize our material industry. It's incredible. Mm-hmm. That's another one. Fine stuff.
KTH again.
Could be.
Okay, Carlo?
Of course, I have the company I'm involved, Mind Music Labs.
I love them. I love Mind, and I know the guys.
Of course, I have to say it first. And then I was impressed already 2 or 3 years ago of another company that's coming from KTH. I don't show the name. The company that is at the bottom.
FLIC.
FLIC, that's the one they did.
They're customers.
They did that.
That's the beautiful
I'm
part.
really impressed because if one looks at that company, it's something so beautiful and simple. Simple.
Yes.
As a researcher, as a scientist, we all learn these equations, theorems, different propositions. This is something very simple that works very well, and I know it's having a big success now.
I think you just described the people because I know them because of FLIC, Shortcut Labs, their name, and the product is FLIC, designed by people. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Any final words you would like to add before I rockstar off you from the stage?
No, I hope we made some sense. I know we were just sitting here having a friendly conversation, but I hope we made some sense. And please, stick around, ask questions,
yes.
and come visit. Come visit for Christ's sake. It's so super cool things are happening in the world.
Okay, is the crowd happy with the guests?
Yes.
Thank you.